Cyclist beats train on 170-mile journey after he couldn't take bike on board. A student who couldn't fit his bike on a train decided to take matters into his own legs and cycle instead, and ended up getting there faster. When James Owers, 28, booked train tickets for he and his girlfriend Deena to travel from Edinburgh to Scotland, he forgot to add their bikes. They were able to get Deena's bike on without too many problems, but there was no space for James to fit his on as well. Virgin Trains offered for him to box his bike up and store it in the guard's compartment, but instead he decided to set himself a little challenge. James told metro.co.uk, "I love my bike, so I didn't want to stuff it in a box." We needed to get to Inverness for the Friday evening as we were meeting Deena's dad the next morning. Virgin told us there were no bike spaces to begin with, but we eventually got hers a space, and they offered for me to put mine in a box and store it in the guard's compartment. This would have been undue hassle for the poor guard because I would have to box it up and we didn't know if it would fit, and it just would have ended up being too much hassle. I thought it would be a bit of an adventure to cycle to Scotland, and Deena bet me a pizza that I couldn't beat the train. James, originally from London, set off from Edinburgh at 6:15 am and arrived in Inverness at 7:30 pm, meaning he was in the saddle for more than 12 hours. But it wasn't all just work and no play. He did manage to fit in some visits to the distilleries along the way as well. He said, "I pretty much stopped at every distillery I came across. It would have been very rude not to have stopped and have a dram. I could have probably fit one more in, but I wanted to beat the train. The pizza was at stake." There were two amazing things that happened along the way. I stopped off at a distillery and it had closed, so I asked an old man where I could buy some. He directed me to the last house on the right. So I knocked said house and was greeted by Gil from Tomatin and explained my situation, and she popped inside. When she returned, she produced a bottle and steadfastly refused to take my money. I think this shows strangers can be just fantastically kind, so long as you've done something utterly insane. Weirdly, in the morning I had been approached by another cyclist, and it turned out we had met at a triathlon the week before and actually crossed the finish line together. After his adventure, James eventually made it to Inverness station at 7:30 pm, and was waiting for Deena on the platform when she arrived. Deena's train left the capital at 4:34 pm and pulled into Inverness station at 8:15 pm. It should have arrived at 8:04 pm. Once I got to the train station I felt really good, and I think it's because when I arrived I knew I was waiting on a pizza, he added. I've done Scotland before and it's not too difficult as there's not many roads. It was mostly one or two cycle routes the whole way, although some of the roads got a bit gravelly and a bit tough, but it was fine because it was so nice. Scotland is absolutely stunning. The whole journey took about 13¼ hours and I was on the bike for about 12 hours of this. It's not the furthest I've done. I have managed to do a 250-mile one before, but that took me about 25 hours, so I was pretty pleased, I have to admit. The problem with Scotland is there is so much incredible scenery along the way that you end up slowing down. Despite his impressive feat, James is determined that people know it is Deena who is the real hero. He said, "I do want to point out that Deena is the one who is doing a good thing and raising money for such an amazing cause. She and her father are currently training to cycle 300 miles from London to Paris in July to raise money for mental health charity Mind. They planned a Highlands ride with James as training, which was why it was so important they got to Inverness. So far, Deena and her dad have managed to reach their target of £3,500, and have now upped it to £5,000. If you would like to sponsor Deena, click here. If you have a story for our news team, email us at webnews@metro.co.uk. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.